a boxing betting expert.
I know, David.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He really gets into the nitty-gritty of this whole thing.
Johnny, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's great to see you as always, and it's great to be here. Appreciate you welcoming me as always.
It's brilliant. We've known each other for a while now, and I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. I don't know anyone who is as skilled as picking the fights as you are. But one thing I don't know about you is how you got into the sport. So I'm excited to do this.
Thank you very much for that. Coming from you, that's a high compliment. Believe me. Believe me when I say that. I've seen some of your stuff, so thank you so much.
Well, I mean,
from my heart,
Well, that's kind of you as well. Okay, so what is your first boxing memory?
Oh my gosh, that's my first boxing memory was with my dad. I was in a corner store in back when we lived in Jackson Heights in Queens, New York, and I just remember being in there with him. I remember the name of the guy behind the counter's name was Nick, and I don't know why I remembered him, but that's his name. And somebody came in there and just walked into the place, and it said to me, "Hey, do you believe this was right after the Clay Liston upset, where Cassius Clay beat Sonny Liston?" And the guy comes in, "Hey, do you believe that Cassius Clay?" And so I was a kid, and I didn't know. All I heard was the words Cassius Clay, and he said it to the guy, and I was just thinking of, as the kids do, I was thinking of, I love Play-Doh.
Right.
I mean, to me, I wanted to slice it up and put it on sandwiches, and I think every kid wanted to eat Play-Doh. It just looks so great. But I hope every kid, maybe I need therapy. But anyway, but I remember him coming in saying, "How about that Cassius Clay?" And I was just thinking to myself, "Oh, this is something that there's silly putty," which, was cool, but it got a little boring. After used to get the comics. I used to get the comics on, and it used to bounce. It was a very convenient thing. Came in a little egg. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. And then there was Play-Doh, which there's all different types of Play-Doh, which I love. But here was something called Cassius Clay. This was a Cassius Clay, and there was something about. First of all, Cassius sounds like an adjective. It's just a descriptive word. How about that Cassius Clay? And I'm thinking, what kind of clay is this? Oh, I want this. Christmas. My birthday, something, and my father was there. And I just remember him saying to the guy, and they talked. I didn't really understand what they were talking about. And I just was like, I'm leaving the place with my father. I'm going, "Dad, can we get Cassius Clay? What is the Cassius Clay? Can we get the Cassius Clay?" And he's going, "No, we can't get the Cassius Clay. He's a fighter." "What do you mean?" And I was like, I was confused because I went from, I was a kid. And I was just thinking in terms of clay. And my father explained to me that he was a fighter. Well, people box and all this stuff, and I didn't really understand it, but I tortured him with the words Cassius Clay for a long time.
Was that 1964?
64, yeah.
1964.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. And so what? So you obviously don't remember the fight. You were too young to watch the fight.
No, I didn't even really know what fighting was.
So what was the first fight you remember watching?
The first fight, after torturing my dad with Cassius Clay, he started filling me in with his fights with Chavallo, Patterson. He would keep me abreast of like Henry Cooper. There was some other guy, I don't remember who it was, but I remember seeing the first live fight I ever watched of Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
Was I got to see my hero in fight Zora Foley. He fought Zora Foley, I believe it was in '67. I think it was his last fight, and before he went into exile, I think it was. He fought Zora Foley, and he TKO'd him in the 7th round. He looked brilliant. Yeah. And and that one, to my memory, was it was a daytime fight. I know that, and I remember watching it, and I believe it was on the I'm pretty sure it was on the Wide World of Sports.
Right.
And that's the first one. I also saw him fight Carl Millenberger and Cleveland Williams, but I did not see them live.
So they were before Exile as well?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So I think Sora Foley was his final fight before Exile.
I think so too. So Cleveland Williams, I think, is his best performance. I don't know what you think about that, but
yeah. My favorite performance of his, he was in all his glory. And Graham Williams was an excellent fighter, and he was in all his glory in that one. Yeah, that was my favorite of his.
He had a sort of viciousness in that fight that you didn't often see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so you were lucky enough to remember a pre-Exile prime Ali, and
actually very well. It was such a specific memory seeing that the Zora Foley fight and seeing again. I don't want to just keep going back to the Clay thing, but I was still a kid associating Clay with being a person, and so I was just drawn to him for that reason. And then to watch the fight and to see him go down, and I was like, and I'm like to my dad, that's good. Cassius,
So would that have been black and white TV back then?
Yeah. Well, we watched it on black and white.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so I don't know if color TVs had even really come into vogue.
Maybe not. Probably not. Yeah.
Around, but we watched it on black and white.
Yeah. And
so what? Wide World of Sports, and yeah.
And was your father a big boxing fan or just a general sports fan?
No, he wasn't a big boxing fan. He explained it to me, and then somewhat just knew that he wanted to teach me about what it was. My father was a big baseball fan, but as far as boxing, no, he wasn't a big boxing fan. But he did want to teach me. He just knew that I just was obsessed with that name and the person, and he wanted to teach me about it. So he always kept me updated with him.
And as soon as you got into the Ali, and obviously he disappeared for 3 years, but your interest was still there.
Yeah. I was very sad when he disappeared because I mean, again, I was drawn by him, and then he was gone. And of course, with his name changed to Muhammad Ali, that's not even his name anymore. Cassius Clay is now he's not that name. Yeah. So it was very confusing for a kid. I know
it must have been
a story, but that was really my introduction. But my dad kept me. My dad wasn't, to be honest with you. My dad was not I just moved that. So you let me know if it shakes because I have this set up in a way like. My dad was not a huge fan of Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay. He wasn't a fan of his,
Yeah.
And he tried to, he was open to me liking it and all this stuff and everything. But he wasn't particularly. I found that out as time went on. If we get into it, I'll tell you when I found it out. Okay. I can't tell you when I found it out. It was at the time after the Exile, when Ali came back. Then I was a little more schooled because that was 3.5 years. And he came back against Quarry, and then I was a boxer. I started watching boxing. Joe Frazier back in the good old days was on TV, or they play a replay if you didn't see it live, and then newspapers always carried it. You buy your newspaper, and then the front page had all the important stuff, current events. You turn it over, sports section.
Sure, yeah.
I would just buy the paper. Just as soon as somebody would hand it to me, you said, "Bing." I mean, the world is going to hell. It's going to explode Wednesday. I'm like, "Bing."
And still 60 years later, it's nice to do the same thing. So, what about? Did you ever box? Did your interest lead to you actually ever boxing?
Pardon me?
Did the interest go as far as you actually ever boxing?
No. I went to a gym, just to learn, like how to punch. I mean, I do a boxing workout here.
Yeah.
I mean, I have I think I might have even showed you, but I have like a heavy bag hanging up upstairs, and I got a speed bag, and I got a reflex bag and medicine balls, and I do a boxing workout. I went in and I learned how to throw the punches, and I worked on speed bags.
Yeah.
but I had this. I just had this weird hang up about getting hit in the face.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's why I respect the bag. You know, it's like I loved throwing at the pads and everything because there was nothing coming back out. A heavy bag, yeah. I love it. I loved it, and being taught how to throw the punches and all that stuff. It's like, hey, suppose there's somebody else against you. It's like, what do you have in mind? They can hit me? Yeah. No. I'm what you call a boxing coward.
Yeah.
And by the way, I come from a long line historically in my family tree of boxing cowards.
Right.
My great-great-grandfather was one of the great boxing cowards of all times. I've heard, my great-grandfather boxing coward.
So what do you make of the argument though that some people will say that it's hard to assess boxing if you've not done it yourself?
Well, I don't buy into that at all. Like for me, like I think like the assessments for me, like for instance, I think the worst people to pick boxing matches are fighters and trainers and people that actually work in it. I think they're the worst people to really give you a good idea of what's going on in the boxing match. I really do, because they I'll tell you exactly what I think happens. You get fighters calling a fight, watching a fight, or picking a fight. I think they view the fight. Obviously, they know boxing. Okay, they know everything about boxing. I just, I view it. But I think people that view it and learn it and watch it all the time, they have an objective perspective of what's going on, why people are doing things, and they learn it. And they get a feel for it objectively. I think people that have boxed, they look at the boxing. I could give you examples of boxers that almost all of them do it, but they see the boxing fight through their eyes as them being a boxer, and they view it somewhat, I wouldn't say with favoritism, but they're seeing it in a way that the other, they see it in a way that they're the person in there. So if they're a puncher, the stuff that they're going to be saying is going to be from the standpoint of somebody, that maybe is more than their some parts.
Yeah.
And they see it through their own eyes. And I don't think they're very poor boxing pickers. Look at Tim Bradley's boxing picks. Malignaggi, these guys, they're not guys I would ever want to listen to. I mean, I think the guys on Twitter, you get some guys on Twitter that are really good and know what they're doing. I'd listen to them sooner. You give me an opinion. But those guys and the trainers, I mean, God bless Teddy Atlas, but I mean, when was the last correct fight he picked?
Yeah.
And he knows all the stuff about boxing. So I think, but he's thinking in terms of what you can sometimes overanalyze something to a way that it's no longer accurate.
Yeah. Right.
Somebody asks you, what's 2 + 2? If you think it's a catch question, you're going to go, well, I think 4, but let's really look at it. You know what I'm saying? I think they overanalyze. I mean, one guy I could, all of them, but I can tell you offhand, George Foreman, who I love, one of my favorite boxers of all times, but he used to always see the fight and announce the fight through the eyes of this guy can end up with a punch. Always. Yeah. This guy can end. So I don't think they're as accurate or as objective as people that, honestly, I think the people that know the sport, have watched the sport consistently for a long time and know why people are doing things and all that stuff. I think they're the guys that really know what they're doing.
That's very interesting. The fighters, they're seeing it too much from their own perspective, which really. They all seem to do that. Like if they're a non-puncher, they're going to like look more at not the person getting knocked out. If they're good defensively, so I don't think you get a really good call. The one person that I just thought was a fantastic analyst, I'd love to see him back, was Antonio Tarver. Yeah.
And also one of my favorite fighters. And he's just fantastic. And
Great.
and I just wish they would get him back. He has a great YouTube channel, Tava's Take,
Okay.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he breaks. You could get him there, and his breakdowns are accurate, and he's the best to me.
Yeah, I've always thought he's a smart guy. Okay, so who's your favorite boxer to watch? And since you were a kid or modern, who's been your favorite? And a separate question: who's the best?
Well, it's a very, very easy question. I'm just going to have to say legitimately, not because of his name, but Muhammad Ali. When he was, I would say Muhammad Ali.
Is your favorite?
He was my favorite boxer to watch. He was poetry in motion.
Yeah,
really. And the best boxer I've ever seen in my life, by far for me, was Muhammad Ali.
So it's the same for both. Brilliant.
Yeah,
okay.
The same for both.
Yeah, amazing. And did you get to see many fights live? Like
no, it's not. I wasn't a big person for going to live fights, even when I got older and had ability to. Not live fights. Yeah. I did go to. I saw a lot of pay-per-views where when I say pay-per-views, where you had to go to, movie theaters where there's 2,000 people around. Yeah. Them I saw, but I never went into the places with. I'm not saying I never will. I did.
Yeah.
My dad took me. I'll tell you what I went to, but for me, like I'm just kind of like the questions are so interesting because it brings back such a special time in my life.
Right. Yeah.
And they're so I'm almost getting like choked up thinking about some of it, but. Yeah. I used to go with all my friends for years back when boxing was just really boxing, Yeah. It's called the golden age, honestly, for a reason. It's not just people being snobby. It was just a whole different world. The best always fought the best, always.
Yeah.
It was just, it was expected, and they did it quickly.
Yeah.
And then me and my friends used to go, and we used to, and we used to have to drive sometimes a half an hour to get to a place that was showing it, I lived in New York. We went to the Nassau Coliseum to see Roberto Duran fight Marvin Hagler. We all drove to the Nassau because that's where it was showing, and they have the big screen up. But we didn't. But I didn't go to many live fights. The one I went to, my dad kind of like coerced me into going to. I wanted to see it, but he had offered me a chance. At the time, wrestling was really big. And people thought it was real at that time. Believe it or not, it wasn't like it is today. It was convincing enough that you could think it was real. I mean, the people there thought it was real. I would say the majority in the audience. So I went to a couple of wrestling matches at Madison Square Garden. Okay. And then my father convinced me to, he said to me, hey, he said, I got a couple of tickets. We could go see it. So I got a chance to see at a very young age, Muhammad Ali fight Floyd Patterson in their rematch.
Oh, right.
So I saw that live at Madison Square Garden. That was really, really interesting because I wasn't sure. It's very hard to tell. It was hard for me to tell who was winning at that age. I wasn't schooled enough at it. And I'm going, and I'd ask my father, and he said, Ali's got the fight. Ali's got the fight. And I was just looking at it, just seeing the punches thrown and just seeing a lot of action over there. Actually, one judge, if I believe correctly, actually had the fight even after 6.
And the
other ones had Ali ahead, but Ali was pretty good friends with Floyd Patterson. I've learned since in reading books and stuff.
So do you remember like the sort of seat? How far away from the ring were you?
We were sitting close enough to the ring to see it pretty good up. I'd say like 6. Just a little bit like higher, so we weren't like even, but we were back a little bit higher to the ring. But it was good enough. It was good enough to see them.
Brilliant.
They were really nice seats. And it's a beautiful memory of my dad, kind of like, hey, I got these tickets, like to take me to the fight.
If that's the one fight you've seen live, it's a pretty good one.
Well, it's one of two. The other one was when I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. They had a fight at Vanderbilt Stadium there, which was the college, the big Nashville College.
Okay.
And at Vanderbilt Stadium, the fight that I saw there, the main event, what was it? It was Jermaine Taylor fighting. I don't even remember his opponent. Kermit Cintron was on the card fighting Lovemore Ledoux, and I think Jermaine Taylor was fighting. I don't remember his opponent. It wasn't Jeff Lacey. It wasn't Jeff Lacey, but it was at the Vanderbilt Stadium, and he beat him. I'm surprised I can't remember the opponent. I mean, it was a name guy, but he beat him.
Okay. And
but it wasn't. That wasn't a great memory of mine. I was much older at the time, And
what's the best fight you've seen on TV then?
Well, on TV, like in what fashion? Like on TV, on pay-per-view, or
any fight you've watched live that stands out that this is the one that if you could show anyone who's not watched boxing, which would you show them?
Let me think a second. I tried to give myself a couple of notes to remind myself of a couple of things. I could just tell you offhand now. I mean, I just tell you the fights were one of the best was that I've seen on this one I saw on closed circuit. Yeah. That was Hagler Hearns.
Oh wow!
That was even though it was 7 minutes and we drove there and we had to go through all this stuff. The first place we went to didn't have like a Hagler, didn't have Hagler Hearns. We went there, we waited online, and the guy came out and he says, the fight's off. And I'm like brokenhearted. You got to be kidding me. This fight is off? It's like, are you kidding me? The fight. So, but what the problem was is it was off at their place, their theater, right, because they had a problem with the camera. So he didn't want to say that because he figured everybody was going to kill him. The guy would have been the late. So he would have been like over if people knew that it was his place. So we made a phone call, and I was with my brother and a friend, and we wound up watching it at the last place we wanted to go to, one of the most dangerous areas. But we got in there, and we watched Hagler Hearns, and it was worth the whole ride, the whole little hassle to get in there, and it was worth all that for just those 7 minutes. That was a great fight. The best one I ever saw on TV was I want to be really clear about this. Aside from the best fights I've ever seen in general, on TV, it was Foreman against Lyle, George Foreman and Ron Lyle in that shootout. That was a great fight. Yeah. But the best fights I've ever seen, which I'm trying to, because you asked TV, I'm trying to do the question in a good way. The best fights I've ever seen live were the best one I ever saw live was Thriller in Manila, Muhammad Ali against Joe Frazier. I was working as an usher at a movie theater at the time, so I was privy to I was off that day, so I was able to just get in there and watch that fight. And oh my God, it was the greatest fight I've ever seen.
Wow.
Bar none. The second greatest one, and I have to say this, was Muhammad Ali beating George Foreman. I mean, as a fight, a lot of people would. I just had some notes here to give me some tips on a couple of things to remind me of a couple of things. The best one, that was it. It was the you don't mind, do you? I just wrote down a couple of things.
Brilliant, yeah.
That fight was the Rumble in the Jungle. That was just a great fight. Just for what it meant and all that stuff and everything. So yeah, those are my favorites in history.
Wow. And so were you betting on boxing then?
Oh no. I didn't even think about it then. But the spectacle of it just watching those fights.
Yeah.
When we watched the Rumble in the Jungle, that fight, we were all on duty. We were 4 ushers on duty. We're ushers. We're the people showing people around, put out your cigarettes, showing people, answering questions and all that stuff. All 4 of us literally took places in the aisle. All 4 of us. And all 4 of us, we don't care if we get fired. We're watching this fight, you know. Yeah. And then as the fight's going on, and once Ali made it past, you know, because, you know, we were nervous. We loved Ali. Once Ali, you know, got past the second, it's like, well, that's not bad. And he was looking good. And then we were going on. We didn't budge. And we heard our guy, our manager, like, you know, like, guys, Bellew, calling me Steve.
Yeah.
None of us, we weren't responding. Yeah. We stayed there until the fight was over. And then we finally went out there. He was cool with it. He understood.
So do you remember when you're watching...
we didn't budge.
When you're watching the Rumble in the Jungle and Ali's on the ropes doing the rope-a-dope, do you remember thinking at all that was strategic, or did you think he was just in trouble?
I didn't think it was strategic. I liked the fact that Ali was hitting him a lot, because Ali's built up this thing in people's minds about the Rumble in the Jungle. Yeah. That's all he did. Yeah. He stayed there, let himself get hit, Foreman got tied, and then he put him out. Yeah. Not the case. He was outboxing him in the rounds too. Ali was outboxing him off the ropes.
Okay.
And Ali would then get into the center of the ring at moments, outbox him, go back to the ropes, let Foreman hit him a while, and then outbox him right off the ropes. That's really what happened. The way I saw it.
Okay.
I think the way history would reflect it. So I was happy with the way the fight was going. I didn't think his going on the ropes was strategic, because I was worried. When Ali was on the ropes and Foreman was starting, listen, if you watch that fight back, anybody watches that fight back, those body shots Ali took, it's hard to believe he was a human being.
Right.
This is literally, him and Ernie Shavers are the 2 hardest hitting fighters in heavyweight history, probably Sonny Liston. Foreman was just battering with body shots to the stomach, and Ali was blocking a lot of ones to the head, but he's hitting with body shots. And Ali was just in the shape of taking him and saying to him, you know, we know the legend. Is that all you got, George? You hit like a girl, you know, and all this stuff. And, you know, George Foreman tells the story himself. Ali was saying, is that all you got, George? And George Foreman said to Ali, yeah, that's about it. You know? But, yeah, I was worried. I was worried until that fight ended. Even when it became obvious it was going in Ali's direction.
You're the first person I've spoken to or who I've ever met who remembers watching that live. So that's amazing. And so what's your favorite weight division and why?
Today or?
Yeah.
Well, today my favorite weight division today. My favorite weight division ever was just getting my papers in order to remind me of stuff. The things that but my favorite weight division ever was the heavyweights, because I think that's what everything was defined by was heavyweights.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite weight division, because everybody wanted. You ask kids growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? Heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah. Nobody was going to say flyweight champion of the world, or middleweight. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But my favorite weight division, today would be, I would say, light heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know, they got, Bivol Beterbiev, Buatsi. Oh, God, Benavidez is there now, Morel. And then you still got Yarde and Smith, who are still, I guess, players. Hutchinson. Yeah. It's just a field division talent-wise.
Yeah.
So I think talent-wise, it's the best. I think the most interesting division today is still the heavyweights, because the heavyweights have got everybody. I mean, Usyk, Fury, Bacoli, Caballero. There's still AJ. There's still Wilder involved with them and everything. There's still Baby Miller. There's still Andy Ruiz Jr., Joseph Parker, Daniel Dubois. I mean, it's just
there's a lot of good matchups there. Yeah. Even
Dubois. But it's not a really talented division. There's a couple of guys that are. Usyk is an all-time great, and Fury is certainly considered a great fighter by some, and there's some people we don't know about coming up. But at any given moment, somebody could, beat somebody.
Yeah.
So and even like AJ Wilder, that's a really interesting fight. Neither of them are going to make really noise, I don't believe anymore. But that fight would certainly draw. I think that's probably the most interesting division. But I think the best fights would be made in the light heavyweight.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what about if there is any boxing fan has experienced frustrations? So, if there is one thing you could change, if there's one rule you could change or add to boxing, what would it be?
For me, it's the 3 knockdown rule.
Oh yeah.
The reason why I think that should be reinstated for me is that I think there's kind of a way that can help prevent corruption. What I mean is, if a fighter gets knocked down 3 times in a round, and there's a rule, he can't get knocked. Like, for instance, when Daniel Dubois fought Kevin Lerena, he took a knee 3 times. Now, I don't know if I've never understood that fight. I still have no idea what the hell happened there with that fight. But, I mean, it didn't make sense to me. Lerena hit him. He went down, took a knee, then wasn't getting hit. He went down, took a knee, then again took a knee. Meanwhile, I've seen him absorb punches from the biggest punches. So, but if there was a 3 knockdown rule, Dubois would have lost. Yeah. He might not have taken that last knee. I don't think a fighter should be able to have the freedom to take 3 knees and get breathers.
So on that, is it not different governing bodies have different rules? Is it there is no 3 knockdown rule anywhere now?
I think there is still in some fights there's 3 knockdown rules.
Okay.
In some fights there aren't. But I think it should be universal. Because another thing is, if a judge is going to side with the A side, not that would ever happen in boxing today, but let's just say a referee in this case is going to side with the A side, give them the benefit of the doubt. Well, he's going to let the A side get knocked down 5 times if the guy could get up. Yeah. He'll let that happen 2, 3, 5 rounds in a row. And then the second the A side gets the other guy hit a couple of times against the ropes, it's off. He's hurt. There's not enough freedom. They don't have the freedom to be as political as they are if there's a 3 knockdown rule. If that 3rd knockdown happens, they have no choice but to say it's over.
So
I mean, that's just my opinion.
If you would continue after 3 knockdown, that would be a 10-6 round, which I don't really recall seeing many 10-6 rounds.
No, it's a 10-6 round. Well, one I could think of offhand was like Pacquiao Marquez. Pacquiao put Marquez down 3 times in the first round. That was considered a 10-6 round.
Right.
But Marquez actually came back to. Some people thought he won the fight. He came back and scored a draw.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not that those fighters can't come back.
Yeah.
But my reason for wanting that rule included is because of the way boxing is today. If there's a 3 knockdown rule, the referees do not have the choice to cut so much slack to the A side. Yeah. If he gets knocked down a 3rd time, it's over. So that A side's got to fight a little harder to stay up. Yeah. He can't get as much protection. So for me, it's the 3 knockdown rule.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So this is an interesting one for you, Johnny. I know some of these, but we did one at a time here. I want to know your best hot take. So when have you just felt so proud that you've either, maybe it was an obvious result that you knew was going to happen, or a less obvious one that you picked out of the amongst the naysayers?
Okay, I'm just trying to remind myself of a couple of things. Okay, there was a few my best and my worst.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I was going to have to search your brain, and I want to give you good answers. But I wrote out I got Tyson Fury to beat Klitschko.
Oh wow! Yeah.
But this was on my Twitter account. I took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy named James Baggs, and people on Twitter would remember him. A fun era of Twitter. And when I said Tyson Fury, he sent a funny image back to me of, like a guy on stage with a cane around his neck being taken off stage.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. But that was one pick. Crawford to beat Spence. That's on my account. That was recent. I said the reason why it was a big pick, it was a close hot take, was because I said it would be within 9 rounds and it was going to be much wider than people thought.
Yeah.
I said, because Crawford had a longer reach, which people didn't know than Spence because he wasn't quite as big. Garcia beating Haney, I gotta say yes. And ironically, Clarissa Shields over her opponent. I didn't even know her last name, Vanessa something or other.
Yeah.
That was I felt as certain about that as any result that she was going to, not that she was going to win, that she was going to knock the girl out.
Yeah, wow.
Because I had seen the girl. The girl had gone down from 240 to 170 pounds. The girl had like 7 fights. Clarissa Shields was talking about a knockout. So those were, I would say, my best hot takes. My best, probably Derek Chisora also over Joe Joyce. Yeah. And I put that in a parlay with Clarissa. That was probably, if you're talking betting the hot take, it was taking, I took a chance with that one, plus in case I was wrong about Derek Chisora. Yeah. Clarissa Shields was fighting at night because I was very strong on Clarissa Shields. She was plus 210. I know I'm talking about betting now, but Chisora was plus 360 against Joe Joyce. And so I bet Chisora against Joe Joyce. And so when he won, that was a favorite hot take of mine. But I had him with Clarissa Shields, which was my really favorite hot take. So I didn't have to bet her again. But if Chisora had lost and I had been wrong, which I easily could have been, I would have bet on Clarissa Shields again because I felt sure, sure. I felt as sure as you can in an uncertain boxing world.
And Fury was definitely the underdog against Klitschko back then. So that was a
I just thought I saw some decline in Klitschko. Yeah. And Fury's confidence and his style, I just thought was going to be a problem. It was one of the most boring fights we ever saw, unfortunately. But I really don't blame that on I think Tyson Fury was there to fight. I think Vladimir Klitschko was always a boring champion. I really don't blame that one on Tyson Fury. You know?
That is that would be one of my cold takes then, because I was very big on Klitschko to beat Fury back then. So what about I know you've got a lot more hot takes as well, but we could do a separate 3 hours on your hot takes. What about your cold takes where you've just got it wrong?
That never happened. No, I'm just kidding.
There we go.
That's happened plenty of times. Honestly, the most recent one, and this was again, I'm thinking of boxing along with betting right now.
Yeah.
And right now, I would say it was because I bet big on this fight. It was Trevor Bryan to beat Daniel Dubois. I mean, Daniel Dubois was coming off just looking like a quitter. I saw him against Joe Joyce and Lorena, and it wasn't so much because of Trevor Bryan, but he was undefeated. He'd beaten a couple of good guys. He looked decent enough, and Dubois just looked like a quitter. And it was just a very bad day for me. That's like the worst cold take I would say that I've had.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had plenty of them, but as far as the worst one, that was the worst one. I could think of. As far as other ones, I took a chance of with that Larry Holmes in his first fight back would beat Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And I don't. Well, let's not get into that, but I took a chance on Larry Holmes beating Mike Tyson in that fight. I just thought that he's just a much better boxer. He's much better than Mike Tyson. Do
you remember what the betting was?
The what?
Do you remember what the betting line was?
Oh gosh, I think it was like 3 or 4 to 1. As I'm guessing here. Everything. It was not. It was lower than it should have been because some people did believe in the thing.
Yeah.
When I say in the thing, in the possibility of Holmes, but I think it was 3 to 1 or 4 to 1, something like that.
Okay, and yeah, I mean that's like when you see that fight now, that looks like Larry Holmes had no chance, but at the time it makes perfect sense.
Well, yeah. Looking back, that's why I mentioned it as a cold take. Because if Larry Holmes was, what people don't know is Holmes was 38 and a half. He was coming off 2 years laid off. He had just lost 2 fights to Michael Spinks, who shook him up a couple of times.
Yeah.
Who was an overblown light heavyweight and nothing more. And Holmes came back. They only gave him 6 weeks to fight Tyson. They didn't want Holmes to get warmed up too much before he fought Tyson. Because Larry Holmes after that, the Larry Holmes who fought Ray Mercer and stuff, I believe Larry Holmes, if he would a little time, he would have taken Mike Tyson easily.
Even at that age, even late.
Even older, yeah.
Okay, wow. I mean, that's a brilliant. We're going to clip that up. Okay, so what about this leads on quite nicely then. Who's the most overrated boxer and also the most underrated, either active or historically?
Oh gosh, overrated. Well, I know who the overrated was. I'm trying to think of the most underrated one. I had written a note here. Hold on a second. While I go through my. Okay, let me just tell you the most overrated one without any question. The most overrated one, I already know who they are. I don't know why I'm bothering looking through this. It's just not. The most overrated fighter that I've ever seen was in the history of my life was Mike Tyson.
Okay.
He was the most. Let me put it to you this way: he was the most overrated fighter in the history of any weight division that's ever happened. There is no number 2. There is no number 3. Okay. You could go to number 4, and I'm not exactly sure who would be. But okay. Mike Tyson is the most overrated fighter who's ever lived. This is my opinion. Everything here is my opinion.
Of course.
By far the most overrated.
He's still incredibly.
He was a great D fighter in a great D, exceeded D era.
Interesting.
That's it in my opinion.
Incredibly popular fighter.
Yeah, that was and exciting. And he brought excitement back to the division.
He's the person who got me into boxing. It was Sylvester Stallone in Rocky and Mike Tyson in real life.
Yeah, he was incredibly exciting. He had highlight reel knockouts. Yeah. I mean, most of them were of his grandmother, but they were still highlight reel knockouts. And I just wasn't. I like Mike Tyson. Don't get me wrong. He was exciting, and I was glad when he was around because boxing was coming off Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, and Holmes was in the unfortunate position. Ali was so charismatic for so long, and then Holmes was not as charismatic, but boxing was still riding on Holmes, and Holmes disappointed a lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people didn't like him because he didn't live up to Ali. But then Tyson was an exciting, charismatic guy who would say anything, do anything. Yeah. So he was really exciting. He had highlight reel knockouts of these people. So he was an exciting fighter to watch, but he was overrated as a boxer. Grade B, in my opinion.
Who's anyone stands out as being underrated, either active or historically?
Probably the most underrated fighter that offhand that I could think of, I guess, was Pernell Whitaker for me.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I mean, Pernell Whitaker, I think he gets credit. I think he gets credit that, you know, he's a great fighter, but I think he's the most underrated for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he gets full credit for how great he was.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he was great to watch, but he was, I just think, very, very underrated.
Who beat him?
You know, Julio Cesar Chavez got a draw with him in a fight that he beat the hell out of. It was at the end of his career. Yeah. That was Oscar De La Hoya got a victory over him. Felix Trinidad got a victory at the end, and Oscar De La Hoya. A lot of people didn't think Oscar De La Hoya, and that's when he was like he was pretty much done. Felix Trinidad, I think, was his last fight. Got a victory over him, and there was somebody else I can't think of offhand, but he was the most overrated.
Underrated.
I mean, underrated. Excuse me.
And so, have you ever met any pro fighters in real life?
The ones I've met, I met Muhammad Ali briefly, got to shake his hand. But as
Wow.
far as conversations and stuff and everything, the Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, I got a chance to meet him, and I had a conversation with him, pro boxer, and Nate Campbell, who's a boxer from a long time ago. But I haven't met many pro boxers and everything.
Yeah.
Too many.
I know you had a nice interaction with Manny Stewart.
Yes. He wasn't a boxer, but I got to speak with him for a while. Yeah,
Amazing.
He was somebody else.
Did you have any particular memories you share with him?
I'd rather keep them.
Yeah, fair enough.
To myself. It sounds like, but
No.
but it was very very brief.
Yeah.
When I was in Las Vegas, it was pretty brief. It was during lunch when he was there.
Yeah.
And he was he was cordial, but he was busy. But it was very interesting, because he was a hero of mine.
Yeah,
I
met him as well a few years later. So
yeah, it was like I wanted the two things when you had asked about the boxing workout. I wanted to show you something. When I said I worked out boxing, about practicing boxing.
Oh, yeah?
I wanted to show you this because I thought you'd get a kick out of it. But, I have the heavy bag and all the stuff that I use upstairs to work out. But I can't jump rope for hell. I can't. Okay. I'm just not coordinated. And this is what I use. And you're going to laugh. And anybody who works out boxing is going to laugh. But do you see these?
Oh, wow.
These are called jump snaps.
Okay.
And what they are is you use them like this, and you jump without having any worry about tripping.
That's incredible. I mean,
and
does that work?
And then you could put they give you like little weights you could put in them, and it's really terrific. I mean, I don't work for them, not promoting, but they were jump snaps, and so when you're working out and you're doing your jumping rope, you don't have to worry about
it's jump rope without rope, really.
Without rope. But it feels like a jump rope. It's not. You can do it with your arms or with magazines, but this feels like a jump rope. The thing spins. It feels like jump rope, and you don't have to worry about falling and stuff. So for somebody like me, you can do all the stuff and pretend you're doing, but you're doing the workout meanwhile, and it just goes like that, like with the you can see the hands here moving and all that, and it's and you can put little weights in it, so it gives you a little more cardio. I meant to tell you that earlier.
It's nice. I will. I've got a bike out the back that hasn't got any wheels. I can get that over to you.
The what?
Don't worry. I've got a bike with no wheels. It's hard.
That's the equivalent of this, but that's what I use for the jump rope.
Okay, so we've got quite a big British audience. So, what is the best British fighter you've seen?
Oh, the best British fighter I've seen is Tyson Fury. I'm not Tyson Fury, excuse me, Lennox Lewis.
Good shot.
I don't know why. I was just, when you said British, it triggered Tyson Fury, but no, it's Lennox Lewis. It's not Tyson Fury.
Okay.
I think Tyson Fury is a good British fighter, but I've seen others. Lennox Lewis is the best.
Yeah, great. Okay. Now, we talk about how much we love the sport. What is the worst bit of sportsmanship you've seen in boxing?
It was AJ. AJ, which they swept under the rug, and they still try to play him up as this great guy. Maybe he is. I don't know him. But the worst bit of sportsmanship I can recall is seeing AJ, after losing that first fight to Alexander Usyk, pick up the belts, throw them down, call out Usyk while Usyk stood there very politely after beating him soundly. He lost that fight soundly and fairly.
Yeah.
And then he left the ring. And he was told by his advisors, you better go back there and do something. And then he went back and he played the nice guy. This is my opinion. He played the nice guy again. And then he's like, big hand for Usyk for doing all this stuff. What are you doing? Let Usyk have his moment. So it was the worst, by far the worst bit of sports.
I love the post-fight interviews and all the stuff they do, and they go off the handle. But I think the one sort of caveat, the devil's advocate, is that they're probably concussed. They're probably not thinking straight. And like, you know, Tony Bellew said some stuff after fights. You're just like, what are you know? I just think they're not thinking straight. You've just done 36 minutes with a heavyweight punching you in the head. I think sometimes you're not thinking straight.
Yeah, I could.
But he did. Well, yeah. I mean, he did it both fights, and then Fury.
No, I mean, you get hit like that. Tyson Fury after the Usyk fight yelled out "Happy New Year" to everybody. So maybe you're not thinking straight. But as far as what I've seen in boxing, everybody gets punched. The worst bit of sportsmanship I've seen is AJ by far. And let me tell you something about that too that a lot of people might not know. AJ works with DAZN. You know, there was a contract or whatever. And the fact of the matter is that AJ did what he did. He came back to the ring and he played it up like he was the world's greatest guy.
Yeah.
After acting like what I just thought was the worst bit of sportsmanship I've ever seen in boxing. Yeah. And then he tried to correct it. And they swept it so far under the rug that I told a friend of mine, you're not going to believe what AJ did. And we turned on DAZN, playing back the fight. They edited out the whole portion. This is how much the boxing media wants to build up AJ. I'm just saying this. This is it's not my opinion. This is what happened. They literally cut it out. And my friend's saying, but what are you talking about? I'm saying, but it happened. It's not here. They eventually put it back in, probably due to pressure, because I don't even know if that's legal.
Yeah, right. That's
interesting. If they're supposed to be playing back the whole card, I don't know if it's illegal or it's legal.
Well, it was all over Twitter, wasn't it? Everyone could see it anywhere they wanted to.
But at that time, DAZN took it off. You couldn't find. I don't think. I told my friend the next day. I'm not sure about Twitter. I wasn't as active on Twitter then as I am now.
So, what do you do differently when you're? Is there anything you do differently when you're assessing fights that you could think you could stand out that is slightly different to everyone else?
The only thing I could think I do differently is I keep two scorecards. I keep my own scorecard from the way I view the fight, and then I keep a scorecard from the way I think political judges are going to view it. And then I compare it to after the fight's over, and I look and I try to see where the discrepancies are, and I try to see what chance there is that there's going to be a political decision. Yeah. And unfortunately.
So that's fascinating. So doing that, how wide can you score? What's the difference in the two scorecards? You have a split decision amongst yourself.
Well, yeah, it's like I could see a fight and view it 117, 111, and I could look at rounds that I'll see a guy that's aggressive for starters, that's aggressive and doing absolutely nothing. I'll say the judge is going to try to give him this fight. They might give him this round. I'll see a round where that I think is clear for one guy. The guy's landing flush punches, the other guy's throwing punches, hitting arms and stuff. Judges could give him this round. Because, in my opinion, boxing politics will try to take it from somebody if it's going to make them more money. Yeah. That's what I think. Yeah. And boxing politics makes money off certain results that are going to make them more money than others. So I look at it from that standpoint when I score them, and I'm looking at how would they score it? Would they score it this way if they're trying to make money? Or this is my way if I'm not trying to make money? And I look at it. And they're very often quite different, to be honest with you.
Wow. Yeah. You do that every time.
And as I told you one time before, very often it comes out one way mine. One card is like mine, and two cards, not exactly like mine, like I told you, but one card favors what I saw, and two cards seem to favor the other guy.
Yeah, right.
It seems to favor the politics. Very rarely does it come out where two cards favor mine and one favors the politics. Not if there's politics involved. Politics almost always wins. I'm just saying what I feel.
Yeah, no, it's very good, and it's also important because you can still have a bet after the score's been before the score's been announced. So it's good to have those two opinions. Okay, so we'll wrap this up. But what is the best boxing movie or book you would recommend?
The best boxing movie I ever saw is Raging Bull.
Sure.
I mean, with Robert De Niro. I mean, the Rocky series is great for boxing fans, but the best thing. The best book, actually, I'm reading it, it's called One Punch from the Promised Land. And it's Leon Spinks. I actually have it here. Leon Spinks, Michael Spinks, and the Myth of the Heavyweight Title.
Wow. Yep, don't know that one. Okay.
Yeah, and it's written by John Florio and Wheezy Shapiro. And it's Tom Hauser has it on his books of recommended seasonal best boxing books to buy. And this book it's just filled with great stuff. And kind of what it does is it shows the difference between the brothers, Leon Spinks and Michael Spinks. And it draws the parallels between Ali's fight with Leon Spinks, not parallels, but the differentials between Ali's fight with Leon Spinks and Michael's fight with Michael Spinks' fight with Mike Tyson.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of stories and inside stories about it. And it really gives an insight because Michael Spinks was terrified to go into that fight against Mike Tyson because he knew he was a light heavyweight. He knew Mike Tyson could punch. Yeah. You know, but
is that a new book? Is it?
What?
Is that a new book?
No, it's been out. It's been out a good while. I've actually already read it. I'm reading it a second time, but that's my favorite. Yeah. I actually brought it down, but I didn't know if I had it at the table, and it's right here.
Okay, Johnny, and I know you're a big music fan, so the final question is, if you were a boxer, what would be your entrance music tune?
I'd say, if I was going to do it seriously speaking, I would say maybe We Are the Champions of the World.
Okay.
You know, that would probably be the one I'd pick. Either that or maybe Don't Fear the Reaper.
Okay.
By Blue Oyster Cult, you know.
Okay. And is the first one, is that Queen?
Yeah.
Queen, nice.
Yeah, We Are the Champions and Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult would definitely be one of mine.
Good tunes.
No, because Don't Fear the Reaper, you know, you're telling the guy, hey, you know,
it's about to get real.
I'm here, I mean it. I'm here, I'm serious.
That's brilliant. All right, Johnny, look, that's an hour, so we're going to wrap this up, but that's been brilliant. I've loved hearing about it. It's so interesting to hear from someone who has literally lived that era that is only in a myth to me. The Ali, the 1960s, 70s, all about that. You called it the golden era. It's fascinating to hear that. And I'm going to go and rewatch some of those fights now, knowing that you were there, you saw it happen in real life.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Having actually been, you know why? Because what's perceived now and the way it's relayed now is not the way it happened. That's why when I say certain things about Ali, when I say certain things about Tyson, I don't mean I like both of them. They seem, I don't know anything about them personally, but I like both of them, and I've watched them both fight, and I think they were both exciting in their own ways, but they were different level fighters. Muhammad Ali was great. Mike Tyson was a grade B fighter at a time where boxing was at its worst. But the thing about it is the way it's relayed to us now, when you live through it and see what really happens, it's not really the truth. No, you know, there was a line from a movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, where Liberty Valance is there, and Liberty Valance is the guy that's the bad guy, and everybody, the whole town is afraid of him, and everybody wants to stay away from him. And there's a guy that's there, and a passerby just happens to shoot Liberty Valance. And this other guy who was just an innocent guy standing there, when the people come over, they see him there, they see Liberty Valance dead. They think this guy shot Liberty Valance. And this guy wants to tell him, no, I didn't shoot Liberty Valance, but he starts to see all the accolades he's getting, and he starts getting drawn in by all the attention and the media attention. He's a hero to people, and he gets taken in. And at the very end of the fight, at the very end of the movie, he says to he goes into the people that wrote the newspapers in the West back then, and he says to the people that are writing the papers and printing the stuff, he said, listen, I got to be honest, I have too much guilt about this. I did not shoot Liberty Valance. I'm not the man who shot Liberty Valance. And the response the guy said he says, son, this is the West. He says, and when the legend becomes fact, we print the legend. There you go. Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of boxing media does today. And I think that's what they do in regards to Mike Tyson. And I think that it leaves out a lot of, Muhammad Ali was the real thing.
the greatest.
It happened. Everybody knew that.
And so, Johnny, what is your we'll put your Twitter in the description, but what is your Twitter account?
I think it's at J Wright Boxing.
Brilliant.
Is that it? I don't know.
I think so. We'll put it in the notes anyway. So
I think it's at J Wright Boxing though.
Thank you very much for your time. And let's we've got some other topics that we want to dig deeper into. So let's do some of those as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'm here.
All right, Johnny. Brilliant.
Talk to you soon. Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, you got it. Bye-bye.